This is section 3.1, day 2, graphing and writing inequalities. Our objective today is to graph and write algebraic inequalities. To graph inequalities, we'll draw a number line, like we've done before. Our center number should be the number from the inequality. Then we'll choose the proper dot and graph it. If the number is included, it'll be a solid dot. And if the number is not included, it'll be a hollow dot. When you see a variable, say all the numbers in your head, so all the numbers less than 5. And then shade the correct side of the line. So let's graph some numbers. First, we have x is greater than 6. So I draw my number line. I put 6 in the middle. I'd say put at least 2 numbers on either side. So we'll have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is 6 included? So is 6 greater than 6? No, it's not. So I'll have a hollow circle there. Does 7 work or does 5 work? So is 5 greater than 6 or is 7 greater than 6? Well, 7 is. So I'll shade this side of the line, and there's my graph. For the second one, x is less than 3. Draw my number line. 3 goes in the middle, 2 numbers on each side. Now I'll make my graph. Does 3 work? 3 is less than 3? No, so it's a hollow circle. What number works? Is 2 less than 3 or is 4 less than 3? Well, we know 2 is, so I will shade the left side of my number line. For my third one, I have x is greater than or equal to 6. I'll start with 6 in the middle. Put 2 numbers on each side. Now, does 6 work? Is 6 greater than or equal to 6? Yes, it is. So I will fill in my dots. And then which numbers work? Well, 7 works and 5 does not, so I will shade the right-hand side of my number line. And for the last one, x is less than or equal to 3. So I put 3 in the middle. I ask myself, does 3 work? Is 3 less than or equal to 3? It sure is, so I fill in my dot. And then does 2 work or does 4 work? Well, 2 is less than or equal to 3, so this is the direction of my arrow to the left here. Couple things to point out quick. The way I think of it in my head, a less than or a greater than, that symbol causes me to make the circle. If I put the line underneath, that causes me to fill in my circle. Also, you'll notice that a less than or equal to ends up being an arrow with the arrowhead looking that direction. A greater than or equal to ends up being an arrow with the arrowhead facing that same direction. So that is a little trick you can use. All right, try these 4 on your own. For the first one, we'll put -4 in the middle. A reminder that negatives kind of go the opposite direction of positives. So -5 and -6 are on the left of -4. It'll be an open circle, arrow to the right. For the second one, we'll put 2 in the middle. This one will be an open circle again and an arrow to the left. For my third one, x is greater than or equal to 0. We'll make a closed circle at 0, arrow to the right. And then the fourth one, x is less than or equal to -9. Reminder, the negatives go the opposite direction of the positives. We'll fill in my circle at -9, and my arrow will go to the left. All right, now we're going to work on writing inequalities. We start by choosing a variable and write down the starting number. Then we'll ask ourselves what types of numbers satisfy the inequality. And then we'll look at the dot in the graph to decide which inequality to use. If it's a closed dot or filled in, like so, you use a less than or equal to or a greater than or equal to. And if it's an open dot like that, you use a less than or greater than. So let's write some inequalities. For the first one, we choose our variable. Let's say x. We write down our starting number. It starts at 9. Now let's first determine which direction my inequality goes. I like to think of it as the tip of my arrow goes this direction, so that's the direction of my inequality. I could also say 10 works. 10 is bigger than 9, so it must be a greater than. And now I look at my dot. If it's filled in, it gets an or equals. If it's not filled in, it stays as it is. This one is not filled in, so there's my answer. For the second one, I write down my variable. I'm going to use x again. Write down my starting number. This time it's 10. Now I have to figure out what kind of numbers work, or I can use my trick. My arrowhead points this direction, so that's the direction of my inequality. Or I could say 9 is less than 10, and 9 works, so it must be a less than. Now I look at my dot. It is filled in, so that makes it a less than or equal to. And for the third one, I write down my variable, and then I write down my starting number, which is 5. The tip of my arrow goes this direction, so I make a greater than symbol. My dot is filled in, so I make it a greater than or equal to. X is greater than or equal to 5. When we're writing inequalities from words, there are some key phrases we can use. For less than, we have is less than, is smaller than, and below. For less than or equal to, we have maximum, at most, and not more than. For greater than, we have is greater than, is more than, is larger than, and above. And for greater than or equal to, we have minimum, at least, and not less than. So we're going to write some inequalities. You will pay at most $7 for a pizza. So you start by writing down your variable, let's say x, and your number, 7. Our important phrase here is at most. At most translates to a greater than or equal to symbol. X is greater than or equal to 7. The submarine stays below 250 feet. Write down my variable. Write down my important number, 250. Below is my keyword. A below is less than. The new town is larger than 2,500 people. Write down my variable. Write down my number, 2,500. Is larger than is my key phrase. So that is a strictly greater than. X is greater than 2,500. There's a minimum of 4 eggs in a good omelet. Write down my variable. You don't have to use X every time. I just like to. Write down my important number, which is 4. My keyword here is a minimum. So my answer is a greater than or equal to. So X is greater than or equal to 4. There are not more than 11 men on the offense. Write down my variable. My important number is 11. Not more than translates to a less than or equal to symbol. So my answer is X is less than or equal to 11. There are less than 3 cows in the parlor. Write down my variable, X. My important number is 3. Are less than, so it's a less than, so X is less than 3. And the plane must stay above 2,000 feet. Write down my variable, X. My important number is 2,000. Above is a greater than, so my answer is X is greater than 2,000. Now try this one. To be labeled sugar-free, a food product must contain less than 0.5 grams of sugar per serving. Write an inequality to describe this requirement. All right, to write this, you'll pick your variable. Let's say X. Less than is less than, and 0.5 grams of sugar per serving. There's our answer. Here's your assignment.